EMR? Is that faring well for the organization? What are your thoughts about doing it by EMR instead of that technical nuance?
That's going really well. What's different about dividing up, maybe BI developers from the data engineering team and like kind of siloing them from each other is that by doing it in the way that we're doing it and organizing it by system, or even if you did it by like a type of business function, if you're in a different type of company, then you have the same team working together towards the common goal, and they're all on the same call.
The topic today is growing the operations, growing the procedures at a consulting firm, or in this case, an outsourced data team from like ours, and just give us some tips and tricks and kind of the growth, the nuances to growing a practice like that, and some things that worked well. Welcome to the call, Wesley.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
All right, so let's get started with a little bit of where we're at today. What are some of the things that you're doing? Well, first of all, let's talk a little bit about team size. So for the size of the team that we have that we're operating with, what are some of the things that you do today that are like really effective that I think set a baseline for, a practice or what a practice should think about operationally developing?
Yeah, definitely. So yeah, I guess kind of team size wise, you can keep in mind we're right about 30 employees currently. And so we're kind of at that point of a team where it's definitely a good amount of people if you think in terms of, like if you had a data team of 30 people, it's pretty big in that terms. Most data teams are typically a couple of people kind of working siloed. So in terms of that, it's a large effort to kind of organize. So some things that we've implemented that have been super effective is number one, obviously, kind of like creating pods for the team, like kind of different groups of the work effort. And so that for us happens to be by client type. So if you're on a certain type of platform, modernizing medicine or Xperity, like is your EMR one of those EMRs, or there's other EMRs or systems that we work with, then we basically organize our development team to be centered around that technology.
And I've seen different organizations that also do it by like type or function, whether they're data ETL, BI development, whatever their specialty is. Was there like thought, logic, reasoning for going by EMR? Is that is that faring well for the organization? What are your thoughts about doing it by EMR instead of that technical nuance?
Yeah, good question. So I think that's going really well. I think that what's different about dividing up, maybe BI developers from the data engineering team and like kind of siloing them from each other is that by doing it in the way that we're doing it, organizing it by system, or even if you did it by like a type of business function, if you're in a different type of company, then you have the same team working together towards the common goal, and they're all on the same call. So ETL and kind of like more back end developers that are doing the data pipelines and getting the data staged, they know what they're working towards because they're on the same calls with the BI developers who are talking about what the business wants and the report that they're putting together and kind of front end. So they're all able to collaborate a lot better, and you're really organizing it by end goal or the client and what the output is instead of organizing it by the job type.
I also think each one of those EMRs has a different nuance to it. It's got some different gaps. It's also got some different ways that they deliver reporting and analytics and the data models. And so just some things to think about if you have enough, volume from a single source or a single source type or commonality. Doing it by system oftentimes makes sense, or at least should be considered. So let's talk a little bit more about those different pods or those different teams. How are they constructed? How do you make sure that you're delivering the best product within that pod? How do you keep pods in sync? Just walk through a little bit of how you structure kind of the leadership over those pods and groups.
Yeah, definitely. So each of our kind of pods or groups has a project manager or kind of someone that you can think of as almost the voice of the customer in a sense. They're the one that really knows the business side very well. They know what the end user wants. They know what the end result needs to look like. And they're really overseeing, the priority lists, QAing the outputs from the team and making sure that what's getting delivered is the best quality and what is going to drive the business forward. Also within the pod, you're going to have, we have like technical leaders who are more kind of like oversight in an architectural role over maybe the data engineers and the BI developers. And so they're able to pass down those technical best practices for whichever software that they're working with, if it's Power BI or Tableau, whatever that might be, because it can differ between systems of EMRs, like you said, but also between softwares that you're using for your analytics. So we have those two positions in place. And then from there, the meeting cadence is super important. So we do daily huddles with the entire team, kind of like a standard stand up in a Scrum environment. For people who might be less familiar with that, you're going over what you've accomplished, what you're looking to accomplish next, and what any roadblocks or challenges that you might have. And it's a quick meeting each day, but it keeps everybody aligned on what each person's working on. And also any roadblocks that come up, you're getting to know those really quickly. So we follow that. And then, we also do biweekly to monthly, kind of depending on the project, retrospectives. So that's like a what went well, what didn't go well, and what can we improve type of a setup to make sure that we're always improving the way that we deliver our services. We're always getting better, and we're always fine tuning that experience. So
Got it. So, so different roles within the pod, different technical and operational know-how to optimize the platform, as well as the BI layer, the Power BI, Tableau, those types of elements. What technologies do you deploy to make sure that everything's in sync, that both you're on top of it from a leadership perspective, that all the teams are in sync and kind of working in unison as compared to everybody doing their own thing on their own platform?
So we use Asana for our project management software here, and it's really helpful. The way that we have it set up, we basically have intake board for requests with clients. They can submit, a request for a new report or maybe adding something to a report, and it's all through a web form. So they submit it through that web form, and it gets routed straight to the team. So then the project manager with that pod's able to take a look at it and kind of further groom the request, make sure it has all the details that we need and everything. But ultimately, that gets added to a team board that entire pod has visibility into, and it tracks it through all the stages of what it takes to get that done. So we work in sprints as well. So we work in 2-week sprints. So at the beginning of a sprint, we'll take a look at the backlog of requests that have come in and identify, okay, what do we want to pull in to get accomplished in the next 2 weeks? And we do that by each team member to make sure that they have a capacity that they can actually work through in that 2 weeks and get completed. So we go through that each 2 weeks at the start of the sprint, and then at the end of the sprint, that's when we do the retrospective and a review of all of the work, and the team gets to showcase what they did to the rest of the team, so that everybody's learning from one another as well.
Yeah, full loop there, as well as good to be recognized by your peers, and have the opportunity to get in front of them. All right, so let's say hypothetically, I mean, we haven't always been this, polished, or we'll call it, in terms of the operational infrastructure. It was definitely developed over time. So let's talk hypothetically. I am a data team division, or any division for that matter, in a healthcare practice or organization. I only have a couple team members. Where do I get started? What were some of the pain points you had years ago when you were a smaller organization and that led you to implementing these things? What are some of those pain points, and where would you recommend getting started for a group like that?
Definitely a good question. One of the, I think, biggest pain points that led us to needing this was just as you start to grow past maybe two or three people that are kind of doing the data work, it becomes really hard to have full insight into what everyone's doing and what stage it's at. So that kind of led us to thinking, okay, how do we get some sort of a standard, meeting cadence and tracking mechanism to know what requests have come in, what have we done, what's still outstanding. And I'd say the key was just, you don't have to make it super complicated and in depth at the start, right? Like just getting some form of tracking going is typically the first step to know what requests have come in and what have you completed, and having team members track their own work for a little bit. once they get comfortable kind of tracking their work and putting their requests in and, they're moving things along to different stages, then you can start to look at, okay, now let's implement maybe that request form where clients can submit the request directly instead of us fielding all these emails and we don't know what requests have come in and who, sometimes they copy the manager on it, sometimes they don't. So things can just get lost. So yeah, I think we just kind of progressed naturally, step by step until we got to where we are today. But that's the biggest tip is you don't have to do it all at once. Just even incremental improvement make a huge difference.
Is the technology, you mentioned the sauna, is the technology like a sauna a requirement? Is it just a really helpful thing? Is there, like, at what point should I consider layering in technology into the team?
It's a good question. So we didn't do it immediately. We first had just kind of update calls where everybody went through where they were at and what they were working through. I'd say at a certain point of once you get past, having a couple of team members and you're more into having maybe 5 to 7 people that are all kind of working together, but on their own sort of things, and you're needing to manage them and make sure that you have visibility into what all is going on, then some sort of software makes sense. But it doesn't have to be Asana. It could be, like Monday.com or Trello, or there's all these different project management tools, and they all kind of get at the same thing of tracking your work and making sure that you're getting things accomplished and out to your clients or to your end user.
For me, when I was starting Parable and so on, it was always an approach to say, like, let's use the minimum amount of technology that we possibly have to until we have to. And, try to stay true to that for the most part. But there does come a point where the number of employees makes an impact of knowing who's doing what and when. The number of clients will make an impact, because different departments. If you have an internal organization, different departments asking for report updates or analysis, keeping track of all that and not prioritizing the loudest voice or the whoever wrote the most recent email gets challenging, and so you need to document that backlog. The other part that's nice about it too is being able to have transparency and communication, so you can easily see across multiple projects or departments or so on, requesters, what's coming in, how high of a priority is it, and who's working on it, what's not assigned. And so it makes it a kind of a platform that should you open it up, everybody can kind of see everybody's business and see what's going on with it. Yeah, I mean, I think the 30 FTE spot, you definitely need to have, if you don't already, technology like this. It'll ease a lot of the pain points and ultimately reduce the risk. So what are the things you're thinking about now that, going from 30 to 60, or adding more staff members, what are some of the next layer things that you anticipate having to think about or prioritize or build as it relates to growing and managing the team of developers and data team members?
Yeah, definitely. There's always something. I think now some of the things that I think about, there's the cross training aspect. Once you get to this size where, whenever you're 5 employees or whatever your team size might be, it kind of works where, everyone can just work on their own thing and know their area. Once you get to a larger team size, you're typically trying to onboard people and train new hires and make sure that if someone were to go out on leave, that you have the ability to, backfill their capacity and everything. So the way that we cross train and make sure that everybody's able to jump in on anything that might open up at any time is definitely something. And kind of in tandem with that, is like the knowledge management of the organization, because we have so much knowledge in the company and people that just know so much more than even I'll ever know for sure. So like all this brilliance of different team members and finding the best way to capture that in a way that is digestible though through knowledge hubs and through a knowledge base, and distilling it down to the most important parts. Because if you overwhelm people with information, then they don't really learn what they need to learn. But you want to make sure that you're getting them the most information that you can out of, these awesome team members that we have, so that everyone's able to really kind of just pick up and learn to their full potential. So, yeah, that's some of the things that currently we're working on. We have things in place. but it's something that I think we can always keep doing better on and continue to grow.
A couple key takeaways from that. One, when you have a smaller team, that sharing of knowledge or that team-based approach is not always attainable, realistic, or accessible. A lot of times you have a small team, everybody does the thing that they're best at, whether it's visualization design, operational analytics or analysis and insights, data warehouse management. You just do the best you can with what you have. I mean, so that cross training is not even an option. So that's one thought is you can lean into that and that's okay with that smaller team structure and size. But one of the other thoughts that I have as a result of it is that opens up risk. And so as we've been able to grow, and one of the things that motivated me to take the practice from a small, less than 10 FTE practice into 30 FTEs and beyond is because it reduces the risk for our clients. And so when I think about just having a small team where you have those specialists, that's great. However, if somebody, and this has happened, if somebody goes out on maternity leave, or if somebody has an extensive vacation planned, or you have multiple clients within the same EMR, if you don't have that base of knowledge share and transfer, you will skip a beat. And we've been able to navigate through those events without skipping a beat, with actually accelerating through many of them because we have built a pool of resources who can overlap and have the capacity to overlap each other. So our clients don't have that moment where somebody's out and it becomes an issue or an emergency risk. The interesting thought too, that outside of that, around the building out that knowledge base or that documentation across different team members, I was just having this conversation with somebody about how when I started Parable, it was a small firm and it was something where I did all the SQL coding and I did all the BI development, and how I couldn't even go back to doing it. And it's not because I don't have the skill to write a select query. It's because I've seen how good people are at doing each step along the way. And I am not even close to the best personally at each of those individual parts. And so it'd be hard for me to even get back into coding or back into even Power BI development to the magnitude that I was. It's just the talent when you bring people in, it just surpasses you so fast. So it's no longer an option for me to fall back into coding. At this point, I got to look to other parts of the business to focus on. And I think are you experiencing similar things? Because you came in as kind of that code writer, developer, and so on, but you've definitely accrued a lot of other talents with the project management tools and just process development and documentation. Are you finding that same thing as you've grown and matured in the business?
Oh, totally. Yeah, definitely. There's so much that a team can do now that is far beyond my abilities, and also just way quicker than if I were to try to go in there and figure it out. There's times where I have to still jump in, and it's like when you go back in to try and code something, I'm just thinking the whole time, like I've seen our team members do this in 5 minutes, and I've been at it for like an hour here. So yeah, there's definitely I've definitely experiencing that too. Same thing that you're talking about.
Yeah, I think it's a healthy part of growing up professionally when you see somebody come in and make it where you can even go backwards. Well, you've burned all the boats. There's only there's only one left in the one you're in. You can go back. So no, that's really interesting. I think overall there's some really great points in here in terms of building a team, one to add in the technology, some of the pain points that we felt, and some of the risk reduction opportunities you have in your own practice, documenting and sharing that knowledge base. So hopefully this was helpful. Any thoughts or final words of wisdom to somebody who's an aspiring, leader of operations or in a practice or a IT department at a healthcare facility?
Yeah, I would just say, if you keep on a little bit of improvement a day, a little bit of work towards standardization and documentation, it feels like a mountain at first. Certainly did to us whenever we started down the road. But just one step a day, taking little chunks at a time, and then you're able to accomplish a lot. So, and you'll be really happy that you started the process. So, yeah, good luck to anyone on the journey.
All right. Well, thanks everybody for your time today. Thanks, Wesley, for your insights and your sharing of stories and feedback of your own growth within the practice and building a team of that magnitude. So appreciate your time today.
Yeah, thank you.